Today on the Arreoblue Data Podcast, we are going to be talking about what makes a good data strategy and what makes an average data strategy. So today I'm joined by Rob McKendrick, our field CDO for Arreoblue. Hi Rob, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. We've got, the audience knows a bit about me, but let's give an introduction of what it is you do as field CDO and how you've got to this position.
Okay, cool. So I've been working in data and analytics for 25 years. Feels a bit long. But the role at Arreoblue is to help our customers and clients with their data journeys. So talk to CDOs, heads of data functions, and help them out, giving a bit of my experience, but also experience from the rest of the team as well.
Amazing. I mean, I can imagine over that time you've learned some amazing things and seen some bad things as well. So I guess you want to give the audience a bit about the experience or the journey that you've been on.
Yeah, so I've worked both in what consultancies call client side. So I worked at British Gas and also at the Co-op, being a data leader. I say data leader rather than CDO because I've done a bunch of roles in there. So governance, strategy, engineering, analytics. But I've also worked as a consultant and in tech sales, a bit like you. So got lots of experience of working with chief data officers across different industries and different countries. So done a bit of retail, telecoms, utilities, financial services. So a lot of experience and worked in big organisations like Ernst Young, but also much smaller boutique organisations as well. So get lots of different experience and pictures from that.
Yeah, amazing. It'd be great to kind of unpack some of that and just understand, the size of the organisation, how that differs, the data strategies. But as we kind of instigated as the title of this particular episode of the podcast, first of all, let's start out. What makes a bad data strategy, or let's unpick that bit. And again, let's take it with that view of like what's the difference between the size of the organisation and how that might affect that data strategy.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think that quite a lot of organisations have data strategies that are just far too big and don't actually say very much in that. So, that maybe they've worked at it for quite a while and maybe they've got some external help, but they've ended up with a 40-page document which talks a lot about data capabilities and a lot about what data capabilities they don't have, but doesn't really move them forward in way of strategy. And I think that sometimes it's easier for smaller companies to come up with those data strategies because they don't have the time to spend writing stuff down and consulting lots of people. So it becomes very focused on what are the key decisions you have to make as an organisation. And I think some of the bigger organisations sometimes try to write everything down in one big doc, which then just becomes a bit of a challenge when it comes to what actually am I going to do and what's the strategy telling me about what I'm not going to do, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. And a couple of bits there I guess would be good to understand. For anyone that's listening that is also not aware of what a data strategy is, it would be good to understand what does that actually mean? Is it just where do we put that data, or how are we using it? What does it actually need to encompass? And I guess to avoid it from just being, as you said, a document that is just sat there just for the sake of being there.
I think any kind of strategy needs to tell you about what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And that could be a data strategy. It could be a strategy for winning at football, right? Are you going to be all-out attack? Are you going to be sit back, absorb pressure, and then go for a few attacks? So data strategies are kind of similar in terms of that. It's like making a decision about how you're going to move forward. When it comes to data, you've got to think about things like, are you going to work really hard on your data quality? Do you need to do a journey into the cloud? Do you need to restructure your data? And which of those things do you need to do now versus later on? So I think a really good strategy lays out those kind of key choices. And it should be something that people argue about in your organisation as well. So, if everybody says, wow, what a great data strategy, and then puts it on the shelf, it hasn't really fulfilled the purpose from that point of view.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Let's jump into that a bit more, particularly around like the roles linked to a data strategy. should everyone in the business know that? Like, who's in charge of like developing that?
Yeah, I think you've got a number of different stakeholder groups that data strategy should really be relevant to and talk to. So, first of all, from a executive and your CEO, maybe your peers in your organisation, they should be able to look at data strategy and understand what it is you're doing, what you might need investment for, so it helps with that, and why you aren't doing some of the things that might be their pet projects. But to really do that, then you do need to talk to some of those peers and colleagues as well. So if you're in a retail organisation, you need to be talking to heads of products or heads of marketing and find out what they are looking at doing in the future. So your data strategy isn't kind of focused on just your data team. It's also thinking about what you need to do to support the rest of the company and organisation. So again, if the company's on a growth strategy, you should be looking at how can I improve customer experience in store or on the website? How can I recommend new things? So from that point of view, it's about understanding the business that you're in, and then what are your peers looking for you to do in terms of your data projects for the next year or 18 months.
Yeah, that's and again that's kind of segueing us nicely to how long does it really take to build a good or a bad data strategy?
I mean, some people will spend a long time, 6 months even, writing up these things. I think that the way we would approach it, Arreoblue, would be to do it quite quickly, especially when it comes to what are the key next steps you're looking to put in place after you've actually written down your strategy. So we would do some workshops for just a couple of days to begin with, to look at, okay, what are your capabilities? Where does the business need you to go? And then what are the key challenges you've got to overcome in order to make that happen? So we've got a framework called Assess, Accelerate and Amplify. So the first thing we do that assessment, which we do in just a matter of a few days.
Nice. And I guess that's another question that would be bad data strategies or data strategies that haven't been implemented as well. Is that maybe because it's not been linked to what you just mentioned about the key challenges or where the direction of the business is going? Is that kind of a key link there?
Yeah, I think quite often they're kind of inwardly focused, and they talk to what we think our data team needs to do, which is part of it, but it's also about how does that tie into the rest of the organisation and look across what are the key aspects from that point of view. I mean, certainly there are parts of a data strategy that need to talk about career progression, talent management, bringing new people into the team, developing new capabilities, but all those need to be done in terms of the wider business and how to generate value. And if that value could be about building new capabilities, or it could be about finding ways to do things cheaper, and you need to know which one of those you're aiming for.
Yeah, really like that bit on the value piece. I've worked with loads of companies that they've, when asked like, what does data do for your company, and they're kind of left questionless or clueless. Sorry, that's probably the right word. As to what's the impact been? How would you go about building that into a data strategy, or how would you go about, I guess, quantifying the value of data is a huge topic in itself, which we'll probably do on a later episode. But I guess any thoughts on that bit? Or
I think a really good way to engage with people across the wider organisation is by looking at value. And part of, I think, doing a data strategy is about finding those initial use cases where you can build something new and build some value and actually turn it into value. So it's not just how do we utilise this new technology. It's about how do we utilise this new technology and work with a department on improving the understanding of returns in an organisation, how to reduce those, or it's about building a better forecasting engine and how to use weather data, say, in terms of producing a better forecast with AI and some data you've never used before. And that gives you a clear demonstration of the value of just one data project that you could do. And if you combine that with producing a further roadmap, then you've kind of got a self-funding set of work and new capability.
I think we're probably one more question there that I've got. When as a company looking to build a data strategy, when should I be looking to do this? Do I need to wait until I've deployed everything on Azure, fingers crossed, or do I need to do it right from the start? What's the kind of best time?
It needs to be kind of a living document that you've always got. Certainly, you should be looking at refreshing it every year, and you need to be able to pivot a bit when things change. It's not about a particular part of your journey and saying we've cracked that, now let's build a new strategy. It should be evolving, just as the rest of the organisation changes, as inflation increases and people need to change some of the things we're doing in a store from a retail point of view.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Rob, for joining. That's been really insightful to understand a bit more about how to start the data strategy, what a good one looks like, and when to actually get started with this. It's a big. I think some customers feel like it's a big feat, so I think that's hopefully helped clear up some of that. Any other thoughts or comments to finish out there?
I just think it's one of those things that you just have to get on with and make it really practical. Don't make it about a big marketing sales story. Make it about what helps you in your organisation, and then iterate it as you develop something.
I love that. Constantly evolving data strategy, which is right, because as the business evolves, the data strategy should as well. Amazing. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you for listening and watching in the Arreoblue Data Podcast. Join us next time as we dive deeper into the data journey.